radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Good evening, Fade to Black. Today is Thursday, February 2nd, 2023, and our guest tonight is Jason Quitt. And this is a very special show. I just posted up in the chat that tonight is going to be one of those shows where you are going to remember where you were, what you were doing, and where you heard it. It's going to be one of those shows tonight. Our guest is Jason Quitt. Now, I've titled the show, unbeknownst to Jason, I've called the show New History Secrets Revealed. That's a broad term. What does that even mean? Well, Jason has just finished his new book. And I'm going to bring Jason in just a second. I have sort of a couple of times over the last few months mentioned very cryptically some conversations that Jason and I have been having, and as he's been completing the book. And he was sending me some of the stuff he was working on for my comments, not for my input, for my comments, just to see if he was, not going crazy. And I assured him that he is not, that he has gotten onto a path and has made a couple of discoveries and started connecting the dots while he was writing the book. And boom, now we're off to the races. So, and just as in the interest of transparency, we've had a lot of conversations. I've been exposed to the material. I have a few different copies of the book. I have the latest one now, and it's going to be published in about a week. Jason literally told me today, I'm going to do this before I bring him on. He said, I'm ready to publish when you say go, right? Just tell me I'm not crazy. And so that's where we're at. The book is finished. It is done. It is completed. And we're just going through some last minute things. And I'm just doing it as a favor to Jason. I'm not the editor on the book. I'm not a contributor to the book. He's just a friend that has stumbled upon something that I think is going to change everything as we know it. It is that profound. It is that extraordinary. So with that, I'm going to go straight to it and say, welcome back to Fade to Black, my man. How you doing?
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Everything that I just said was the truth, wasn't it?
Let me just do a little background here because, okay, so, the Egyptian postures of power, right?
Yep.
This is book 1, and this was the first book in a series. The next book was going to be about the moon and different, astrotheology and mysticism and all this stuff. And, I've been working on this book since the summertime. It's been a long time. I've really been putting in the effort, and I'm not the typical writer. I don't, read other sources. I don't read any other books. I just kind of sit back and have a thought, and I keep it in my mind until the information starts to come. So from the summer until I would say about October, I'm writing the, Egyptian postures of power 2. And I started writing this chapter, and it was called The Brazen Serpent, right? And basically in this chapter, just a quick summary, not giving really anything away, Basically, it was trying to go to the earliest origins of star mythology, the earliest origins of solar mythology, and trying to figure out these very ancient stories and how they've weaved themselves into mythologies that we know. The ancient gods back in Sumeria, the ancient gods back in Egypt, all these things. And to do this, I was just reading what was it? The Egyptian Book of the Dead, the pyramid text, the coffin text. Like I was just really getting into the Egyptian ancient mysticism stuff right from the source. You're not reading anybody's suggestion on it, just going right to the source. And doing this, I had to, and we even talked about this. You went to Egypt and you were saying, Jay, you got to look at these pictures. Like, forget about the pyramids. Like, look at what's on these walls. And that's what I did. I went into these ancient tombs, which are stunningly depicted in the Book of the Dead, and they have different symbols and just beautiful artwork. So I started to look at these symbols, and a couple of them caught my eye. And because I was going down the path of, the linking the stars to the myths and the symbols, I started to see a connection. I started to see something that I've never seen before. And I don't think anybody has ever seen before.
They have not. I can assure you they have not. Okay, so this is what happens, everybody. Let me just spell this out. I get I'm here, I'm working, goofing around. Get a text from Jason. Jimmy, call me, man. I got to talk to you. I'm like, man, that's kind of a weird text. Hope everything's all right. So I call and we talk. And he goes, no, we gotta Zoom. And I said, okay. So we Zoomed, or we did. I forget how we did it, but we hooked up in video. And I look, and this is Jason sitting in front of his computer. I'm like, what the hell's going on, man? I haven't left in 3 weeks. Left what? My chair.
You didn't mention my hair was up, like I was in my pajamas.
Yes. I'm like, oh my God. And look at you. You had, and I've been messing with you since, you had crazy eyes, right? You had been researching and you found some things and you started to just confirm but that led to one thing to another, and you were freaking out. And so you called me to hopefully have me, talk you off the cliff. You're not going crazy. And so that's what we did. And this was at the very beginning, everybody. We, Jason methodically walked me through these things. And this was at the beginning. And I'm like, what? And I said, Jason, how many rabbit holes have you been down? Dude, I did. you were. And so anyway, you asked me, am I seeing things, or do you think that? And I said, dude, this is spot on the money. And now what I should have probably said, Jason, is, no, man, you're off your rocker. That would have saved you a lot of, probably added 10 years to your life. But I said, keep going. And you did. And since then you've been, keeping me updated. And one thing has led to another, my friend. And let me pop this up, everybody. That conversation was probably 6 months ago. I'm going to guess, right? And it's culminated in this. This is the new book. This is the cover, and the back cover. It is ready to publish now. We got a couple of things that, when I say we, it's Jason, of course, but a couple of little things that little tweaks. And that's it. So we're looking at Jason about a week, right? Pull the trigger in about a week, and it's off to the races.
Yep. And that's the thing, is that this information was so, I felt it was so important that I had to stop writing the Egyptian Postures of Power book. I took that book and I just said, okay, I'll finish you later. But this is something that it needs to be published. And because of the need for the publishing, or because of the excitement that I felt from it, I still feel from it, I haven't moved. It's probably extremely bad for my health. But I've been sitting in this chair literally 8-hour days, just waking up and not moving until basically I crash, just so I can get this material together in the simplest forms that any reader could understand where I'm going with this.
Is Monica still my friend?
She you know what? She understands.
She's knocking on the door. Are you still on with Jimmy? Yes. I was like, man, you are in trouble. Yeah, but okay. So I think that it was really best for everybody to hear that perspective of things, because when you least expect it, things like this happen. And going through, some of the reference images that I had and your work, but it has also, and I want everybody to understand and hear me very clearly, the illustration work that is published in this book is crisp, clear, awesome. It's unreal. And Jason created all of that, from the original artwork, but just to deliver not some grainy image or a photograph or something that this is the work to represent this, because it's some of it's very complex, but it needs to be digestible. This needs to be accessible to every person so they can look at these illustrations and what they mean and how they are connected to each other. And the amount of work going into that, Jason, I cannot believe how great it looks. You're indeed a professional, but you also care about the aesthetics and the way that everybody needs to look at this and understand what they are seeing. So hats off to you. And when everybody sees the illustrations in the book, when you go, holy crap, you need to think about how Jason did all of this. I was looking at that. I was like, how did you? And you're like, dude, I traced it off the tomb wall. It's like, oh my God. And, but it's just incredible. The book is absolutely amazing. So congratulations. I know right now you're in a little bit of a stress period. You're a week before the published date, and that's always a very stressful time. But the work is done. You got it completed, and you've got a lot to be proud of.
And just going back to the illustrations, because everything had to be very technical, like I couldn't take a picture of a photograph that was, let's say, like tilted in the wrong angle, because then it would screw everything up.
It would distort it. Yeah.
So I had to try to cross-reference and find the best sources of this material, of the images, and then I had to literally zoom right into the pixels and trace accurately every single point, so that I know that then I could measure it, then I can scale it, then I can match it. And just doing that alone is a job. Forget the publishing and the writing. Just creating the artwork is a full-time job.
And the okay. We can dwell on all of that. Yeah. Congratulations, okay. Book's coming out in a week, dude. Relax. Now you can drink some coffee and maybe have a conversation with Monica now for longer than 5 minutes in a day, and check in with her and see how she's doing, because it takes a lot of work. And writing a book, it's I say it so many times. I have so much respect for anybody that has the discipline to sit down and start it and finish it. And congratulations. Now, we're going to discuss what the book is about. And before we get to that, how do you think it's going to be received? When you look at Robert Bauval and Orion and the pyramids, books like that, of even Robert Schoch and John Anthony West, right? Eric von Daniken, for instance, when books like this are released, you never know how the reception is going to be. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen?
I don't know. I really don't know. I hope it's going to be received well, because I made it very difficult to refute it. Made it very difficult, because I got a lot of evidence from all around the world that follows that knowledge. The truth is, sometimes, is it too good to be true, what I found?
You know what?
That's what I'm thinking.
You're stealing my quote. That's what I said to you, right? And now, when you think about somebody like Scott Wolter, John Anthony West and Robert Schoch and Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson and very, very big minds that do a lot of research into this, and it's a tough road for them sometimes. It's a very tough road. Now you are right there. This isn't the postures of power.
No. This
is a paradigm shifting, potentially world paradigm view changing book. And you've backed up what you needed to have backed up. Right?
It's interesting, because there was this one artifact, for example, and I'm not going to say which artifact in the book yet, but there's this one artifact, and it was given to MIT, it was given to Harvard, it was given to Stanford, it was given to all these people, and they had all these people for years looking at this object, and they couldn't come up with what it was. And that's just like one of maybe 100 that's in the book. It's insane. That's why I called you. I'm like, am I going insane? Like,
I know.
do I have the key to this? Because all the pieces fit together once you have this knowledge.
Now, let's go back to Scott Wolter for a second.
Yeah.
One of the things, I'm not talking about the hooked X, but one of the things, if you're going to be controversial, then go ahead and present evidence of multiple trips over to America at that time, right? America, United States, this continent, for different reasons, religious reasons, hiding history reasons, running from the man reasons, maybe gold and other things. Maybe the Ark of the Covenant is on one of these ships. Start talking about that, and that stuff was here 1,000 years before Columbus, right? And dig deeper into that and suggest, the Vikings, but maybe it was. You are going to rock the boat now, and that's what Scott has done. If this pans out like I expect it to, your new book, Astral Genesis, if this pans out, this doesn't only suggest a connection of the United States to the rest of the world. The entire world was connected in ways that we cannot imagine for a very long time. Not since Christopher Columbus or the Vikings, but now we're talking about deep, deep, deep history.
I think the furthest example I have in the book is, and I hope I pronounce this right, Karahan Tepe, which is in Turkey, which goes back officially 9,500 years, or 9,500 BC. It's almost close to 11,500.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is far, far, in our prehistory, what we would call it, and I'm just saying the artifacts, what they're telling in these artifacts that are almost 12,000 years old. It's the same artifacts in other places that are completely not connected. thousands of years later in history. So it's like, what does this really tell us? It means that there was, let's say, an ancient civilization or an ancient knowledge that pretty much made it up to present. I would say it made it up to about 500, 600 years ago. And then we've kind of lost trace of it. But it's been very important to be passed down through almost every civilization, going back to at least 12,000 years to the last ice age, which is incredible. So we can trace that knowledge through different civilizations, which I don't think anybody's really done before.
When let's talk about that aha moment, and then what I would like to do in the brief time that we have together tonight, I would like to go through the chapters in the book and the titles of the chapters of the titles of each chapter. And when we go through the chapter names, you can kind of see a little bit of a roadmap. I'm speaking to the audience now, so we're going to do that. But we'll talk about that aha moment that made you text me that day, when you made the first set of. Let's just go with data as you compiled, right? I'm just using safe words here because the book is not released yet. Once the book is published and released, we can talk about all of this in the first reference, first person. But we can't do that. I don't want to do that right now. But when you compile that, you overlaying, and you've got this first set of data and that aha moment. What went through your mind? Because obviously you texted me and you said, "Church, I need to talk to somebody, man." What went through your mind? What
it was actually when I called you. For me, it blew my mind. And first of all, I'll just give a background thing. I have to draw these symbols, right? So I'm on Illustrator. I have the pen tool. I'm setting up and making sure that this is a proper drawing of, let's say, a symbol from a tomb. And this tomb, this symbol is astrological. The tomb, the symbol is positioned in a specific way. The image is holding specific symbols that relate to different constellations. And I'm drawing this, and I'm just seeing this pattern. And then I go to another tomb, which is separated by, let's say, 1,000 years. And there's another very important astrological symbol in there. And I start drawing this symbol. And I start to see these elements and realize that there's something underneath these images. There's something that these images are created from. That's what I'll say. These images are created from something.
There's a progenitor there for the images.
Yes, it's not like these weren't just artists. They didn't just take a picture. They say, okay, draw Horus holding a staff. That's not what they're doing. These were like artistic priests that had a very specific knowledge, and they had to draw things in a very specific, exact way. And if they didn't, they would probably lose their priesthood. So the image itself contains, let's say, a book of information, and that's what these symbols are for. They're just packed with information, each symbol. You could write a chapter on each symbol. So I'm drawing these things, and I'm starting to see this pattern, and it connects to something, to their theology, to their mysticism. And I start putting these pieces together, and everything lines up to a very specific thing. So I called church and I said, please have a look at this. Am I going crazy, or am I really seeing this?
And that was my reaction. Am I really seeing this? Right? I'm looking at it. You're you're doing. Again, I don't want to give it too much away here, but Jason is showing me step by step. He methodically went through the processes of this, so I would understand it. And I'm thinking, is this real? Because if it is, right, and you can see that it's real, right? See, that's the whole thing. You can see that it's real, but you start to think about the implications about how significant all of this really is, and wow. And so, yeah, the same tripping that you were going through, I went through it too, and you were able to see me. How do I say it? Lose my crap, right? As well, and to let you know that you weren't crazy. That this was obviously step by step exactly what was going on. And now this isn't just. I'm going to be careful about what I'm saying here, Jason. And you can stop me at any point. This isn't about Egypt. It includes Egypt, but I don't think there's a continent on the planet that is not left out in this, and a culture that is excluded. Is there?
No. And the thing is that, you know, me and with Quitspiracy and, you know, the community and everything is, I'm always trying to debunk. And the person I most try to debunk is myself. So I started to try to find reasons why this would fall apart, or reasons why this wouldn't work, or, you know, and every time I tried to do that and look further, extend my view, I kept finding things that actually, it's almost like it was teaching me a new language. So this is why it took such a long time, because I was literally learning a new language. And this is like an underlying language. It's not an Egyptian language. Okay. This is like a star language.
Okay. So let's start right there. Thank you for that.
Yep.
Nice job, Jason. Nice segue.
Okay.
Yeah. Doing my job for me, because the title of the first chapter, not the first chapter. We're going to skip over part 1. We're going to go right to part 2. The lost language from the cedars of civilization. Now that's pretty cocky. Right? That's pretty strong.
Yeah. Well, it's the only thing I could describe.
Right.
Because, like I said, if this is a language, and it's not a spoken, this is the thing, it's not a spoken language. This is a language of the stars. It's the language of the earth. I don't want to give too much away, but
Right.
But basically, this is something that has to be taught. It's not something that, you know, I can learn it and figure it out myself, and then someone 1,000 miles away can figure out the same thing. That's impossible. This information is very technical. It follows a very specific pattern, very specific, let's say, a mythology.
And it's repeatable.
And it repeats.
Yes.
So it's something that has to be passed on to different cultures. And it's, like I said, it's not a spoken language. So let's say it's a priest or someone who has this information. It's like they're hiding it in plain sight. They're hiding it in everything. Okay. Hiding it in jewelry, in statues, in megalithic construction. They're taking this knowledge and they're putting it right into it.
You know, they're doing it so we would see it in the future.
I think so.
You know, at one point, somebody, you know, some crazy-eyed dude in Toronto, right? Somebody eventually is going to go, wait a minute, aha. And I think that's key. And I think the best example of what we're talking about here I mean, I can't wait for everybody to read this book, man. They're just going to freaking lose it. Is the purses. Now, everybody has heard me talk about the purses, whether it's Gobekli Tepe, it's in Mesopotamia, it's Mayan, Aztec, pick a continent. We got purses. We got purses. The purses are everywhere. And that's always been the question. What are they? What's the significance of that? Well, it's right in front of you, not what they are, but that they are significant. And these cultures that span millennia, span thousands and thousands of years, that technically are unrelated, are related in some way, and they're showing it to you right there with those purses. So that's not a language. They're just showing you with that purse that they're, trying to get your attention. And Jason, that's what you figured out. You found it. You found it, and you have been able to decode is too easy of a word. You were able to go and figure it out. And in the end, Jason, was it getting easier? Because as you were sending me information, right? Because now you know what to do and some of the steps to take. Was it getting easier to see?
Here's the thing: is like you start with a puzzle piece, right? You start with a key, and as I started to go and further my search into different cultures, especially Sumerian, all right. I'll just say Shamash, all right, like the god Shamash, where he's holding the rod and the circle. That is like one of the main keys that solves this. And it's like, so I have parts of the puzzle, and then I started expanding, let's say, into like ancient Sumeria, and I'm seeing what they're showing in their astrological symbology, and they have a piece of the puzzle. And now that I'm starting to build this, like, as you're reading this book, Jimmy, you're realizing I'm creating my own language here. Because how do I describe these things? I have to literally create very simple phrases to describe what these things are and how they relate. And every time I got a new piece, it became easier and easier and easier until I was like, you could just show me a symbol and I could just look at it without even having to draw it and go, okay, this is the meaning of it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And, the purses, I know a lot of people really like the purses, and I'll just say that it was Gobekli Tepe that ripped the lid off those purses for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Look, as he said, yeah, it was Gobekli Tepe. I got that, man. Right. But yes. And see, the reason why I bring up the purses so specifically, and then I want to get to, you just started to touch upon it, the solar key, and we got to go back to that. But the purses are such an easy thing for this audience and those that are to understand, because they've all seen it, they've all heard the conversations about it, they know exactly what we're talking about, and they've been scratching their heads for years on this along with the rest of us. So that's what we are referring to here. There's stuff that has just been right there in plain sight, but we haven't been able to, and Jason has pulled it off, has absolutely pulled it off. The solar key, which is the next chapter in the book. What is the solar key?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. I would say that, everybody refers to the ancient cultures as solar cults. They worshiped sun gods, and they make it like these ancient people, they didn't know nothing. They worship the sun because, it's a giant ball of fire and hail the sun, No, that's not what the history is actually telling us. All right. You have to go back to the ancient world. We're spoiled we don't live with nature. We don't live with the cycles. We have cars. We could fly. We got internet. I'm freaking talking to you over like fiber optic cables, right? We're speaking over light. It's incredible. I go to the store to get my food, right? Like in ancient times, what was important to them? The only thing that was important was living in the cycles of the year. Because if you didn't, you would die. You would starve to death. You would just be unhinged. And what was the most important thing of learning about your environment is learning about the stars, learning about the sun, learning about the moon, seeing how there's a correspondence in nature. There's a rhythm that goes on with everything around you. And that rhythm is not outside of you. That rhythm is inside of you as well. So you're bound by this wisdom of the cosmos. So, I have a theory is like, okay, so you have people that live through the Ice Age. We know this. It's like they had a lot of time to figure stuff out. They weren't going anywhere. They just had to, let's say, look out of their cave or their dwellings, wherever they are, and look at the stars and follow things, see the sun, follow it in the sky, see the moon, understand the timing, understand the cycles, and see the minute details of changes that occur with the different stars, with the different suns, with the different moons. And it's that mindset that you have to be in to see the world, to understand what they're trying to tell you.
Yeah, I just don't think it's that simple either. I was listening to a presentation last night after Fade to Black, and I spent like 2-3 hours listening to this long thing on ancient history and ancient cultures and the rise of cities and kings in Mesopotamia and Sumer. And I'm going through all of this, and, I got to say, this professor of history, not going to say his name, pretty smart guy, but he was dumbing it all down. That it was just, this bright thing in the sky. They were in love with it, and they just made it a god. And they based their religion on something that was cool. Like, do you really think it was that simple? Right? No. But yet this guy is teaching courses with, by saying things like this. And he even talked about Akhenaten, and if it's just, it was just raw. No, it wasn't. It's just, how can you just dumb it down like that? There were very complex minds and cultures that were going on at this time, and you just can't dumb it down like that. It's not that simple.
I would say it was just different. They were geniuses. Like decoding some of these statues and drawing them in my computer. The angles that they put in there are so precise that I'm like, how can somebody carve this and know these angles? Because even if by putting them into my computer, they're absolutely perfect.
Yeah. Well, okay. So Jason, when you see this, 2500 BC, and then you see it at 1500 BC, you see it at 500 BC, you see it at year 0, 500 AD, right? The same exact, right? With cultures and societies that had absolutely, well, technically zero connection with each other, but yet it's absolutely repeating down to exact measurements and numbers. I mean, it's astounding to think about.
Yeah, and we can think of a very simple example that we've seen, like the Hamsa, which is like the hand with the eye in it. That's a very common symbol seen all over the Middle East. Goes culturally, and then when you come over to North America, the Lakota Indians and many native cultures, they use that symbol, the same exact symbol, the hand with the eye in it. So separated by the continents, yet they both use the hand with the eye for the exact same reason and the exact same meaning.
I'm going to stop you right there. Hush.
All right.
Hush. Not letting you go there, man. I want to go there so bad. Trust me. I want to go.
I'm just saying it's like
I know.
I'm not saying how they're connected.
But seriously, everybody just take note of what Jason just said right there. When you start to read this in the book and you see it for yourself, like I did, you remember that day? You remember the hand-eye day? You remember that day when you caught it? I was like, what? I mean, like, seriously, what? I'm not even going to use the language that came out of my mouth. It's like, holy crap. All right. Now you've brought up Shamash a few times. Many people don't know what you're talking about. So let's who is Shamash?
He is a god that basically evolved out of Sumerian mythology. This is more when you go into Acadia and Babylon. And Shamash is basically a solar deity. He's a version or personification of the sun. He has a twin sister named Ishtar, which is also a personification of the sun. Many people say she's a personification of Venus, the morning star. And so these are ancient gods, but they're personifications of, let's say, the gods of creation, which is very similar, or not similar, they're identical to, let's say, the gods of Egypt, the Neter, which is the fundamental forces of nature. So, for example, Ra is the sun. Ra is the sun god. Horus is the new sun rising from the eastern horizon in the morning. Horus is born in the morning on the horizon. Set, the setting sun. So it's like you have these personifications of nature placed and deified into these gods. And Shamash is just another one of these gods that follow the same pattern of mythology, the same pattern of personification of different solar elements, lunar elements. You have Geb, which is the earth. You have Nut, which is the sky. You have all these different gods that represent different things. Shu is the air. Tefnut is the moisture in the air. So there's different levels of understanding of this. So it's like we can just look at it and say, okay, they believed in this god as the sun and they named him Shemesh. No, that's not what it was. But the thing with these ancient cultures is that this information about these gods, or this information about the nature of reality from their perspective and their observations, was so important that it was methodically carved into objects, tablets, statues, and we see them in museums all over the world now. And the tablet of Shamash, which I believe was from Babylon, 900 BC. Trying to remember which. I think it's in the British Museum right now. But this is a very detailed thing of the god that everybody will recognize Shamash because they go, "Wow, he's a giant." Right? They see him and he's like 3 times the size of everybody else. It's this big giant sitting on a throne, and there's like little people in front of him, and he's holding this rod in his hand with this circular object, and nobody knows what the hell these things are. They're just like, okay, that's the symbol. Or, you're looking at the symbols themselves of like the Star of Ishtar, which is like the 8-pointed star. The solar crescent, which looks like a crescent moon. There's all these symbols connected to these gods, and all of these are keys that reveal a much larger story that goes further back in history and way further forward in history too.
So, and one of I want to be clear to everybody. The information that is in this book is not out yet. The book is not published, and it is so profound that I told Jason we're not going to discuss any of that. Once the book is published, then anything can be said. but it needs to be documented and part of the public record. The book has just got to get published. I don't care if you buy it. I don't care if you even read it, but it's got to be documented at that point, dated and done. And then I'll talk about whatever is in the book. But until that happens, no. And but
thank you. And I know it's hard to talk about it because, oh my God, I want to just tell you.
Well, and but everybody else, they think that, what's the, do you give us the secrets? Well, no, we will. The day after the book is published, ask me whatever you want. I don't give a shit. But until that publishing mark is done, there's got to be some protections in place for content and for creation here and for the research that Jason has done.
And I'm absolutely sure that a lot of people are going to take issue with it, like what they do to Graham Hancock and other people, because how does some guy from Ontario who's getting snowed in right now, maybe it's because I'm getting snowed in, I can't do anything else. Maybe.
So much for global warming, and it's a good thing that you guys are about to get really blasted over the last couple of days, aren't you? It's supposed to get down to like minus 50 in Maine. All
I know is I got a shovel tomorrow.
Oh, that's absolutely incredible. Okay, so now here's what's crazy. So there's everything is crazy about this book. What we are going to suggest here, if you want a little nugget, I'm going to give you this. So we're just talking about Shamash, ancient Samaria, talking about Horus in ancient Egypt. We just mentioned Gobekli Tepe. Now, in a weird way, and I've said this a lot, you can connect the dots between those three places just because they're so friggin' close to each other. I think that there's a lot of influence right there. You could practically walk, if you wanted to all three, not that you would, but you could if you had to. But then if we go to Sago Canyon, right? If we come over here to North America, or if suddenly we're talking about Gobekli Tepe, if we, go back, or any of the other tepes, I should say, because there's many tepes in Turkey, and jumping over here, that sounds impossible, but yet that's exactly what the book does, right?
And that's the thing, is that, and that's why, I called you as, am I going crazy? Because, how is something fully formed in, let's say, one of the tepes, 12,000 years ago, and now we're looking at a petroglyph in Utah on the side of a canyon, and it's the same. And it's from... Careful. I'm just saying it's from 11,000 years in the future.
Right.
So there's 11,000 year gap between what is found Gobekli Tepe and what is found over there. And you're saying, how is this a coincidence? But you can't see it unless you know what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When we start to analyze the gods of Egypt, now you brought up Horus, but you've got to bring up Isis, and there's different gods of Egypt. In those references, are we to understand that Isis was not mythology, right? That Horus was not mythology, and that we are talking about actual physical beings, or was it represented as mythology just to transfer information?
And this is why people aren't going to like me, because from what I've just from the information that we have, they are entirely personifications of ideas. They're personifications of natural observable knowledge that are packed into each character. So think of it as like each god is a university course, and each one contains their syllabus, their information. And to learn about that god, or to worship that god, is to receive that knowledge from them, is to receive what that knowledge is that they're holding. So even in the book, I broke down Isis and Nethesis, which is the sister of Isis. And you don't really hear much about the sister, but they're polar opposites, but they're exactly the same. And when you start breaking them down symbolically, they actually break down symbolically as polar opposites as well. So, like I said, there's a knowledge within these characters that goes beyond the actual character that they personify.
Leonardo da Vinci, Vitruvian Man. I don't think that it's just a study of human proportions. It's that, of course, you can look at that, but there's something else very significant there. I'm not talking about like some Dan Brown, BS and Da Vinci, but there is a way to show you something, right? It's teaching you something. Is it a study of proportions? Yeah, of course. Yeah. The human body is elegant, and he had a way of showing that to us. But also, human bodies are different, so the proportions aren't going to be the same. But there is a message there. He is showing you something, and that is what I think, in essence, not only what the book is about, but how you have something that is right there in plain sight, and it just takes a little bit of a nudge from somebody for everybody to understand what is actually going on. I'm not too far off, am I?
No. And this gets into very old mysticism, and it has to do with even Hermeticism, which is about correspondences, and how basically the human body, like Leonardo da Vinci was showing, is basically a microcosm of the macrocosm, and that the proportions found within man are found within the sun, the moon, the stars, the earth. And that if you know that information of the sacred geometry that the architect of creation put into creation, and this is the role of Ptah from Egypt, the great architect, the creator god Ptah, they placed certain mathematicals like the golden means into creation. And it was Leonardo da Vinci and many others going back through history that knew the secrets of these ratios, knew the secrets of this geometry, and were trying to show the correspondences physically of you are connected to the earth, you're connected to the sun, to the moon, to the stars. And the more you understand that, the more that you will find the creator you're looking for. It was like a path for enlightenment to go down that sacred geometry, mystical path.
We need to take a break here. But before we get to the break, the beginning of Stargate. All right. So you got James Spader at the, speaking at that museum. And he's talking about the Great Pyramid stuff and this and that. And he's bringing up Howard Weiss and so forth. And anyway, so somebody in the audience raises their hand and says, yeah, okay, cool. But who do you think built the Great Pyramid? And he goes, I don't know. And as soon as he said that, the whole room gets up and walks out, right? He empties the room and he goes, what is it, lunch? Well, that's always the question that everybody wants to know, right? That's it. Who, how, who, what? It is like this one, because we know nothing about Khufu. We know nothing about that guy. Here, the Great Pyramid is built allegedly for him, but we know nothing about him as what he did as Pharaoh. Zero, right? And that's the number one question. Well, we've got 2 chapters back to back in this book, the Bent Pyramid and the Great Pyramid. Are you suggesting that you've unraveled this?
I'm saying whoever built these structures had the knowledge we're sharing in the book. And they use that knowledge in the construction, and that's how they decided how to build it.
That's pretty cocky. How do you think that's going to be received? I mean, we've been waiting for something definitive. We haven't gotten it out of the Egyptians, right?
Nobody wants the answers. Come on. That's the problem, is that you can give everybody the answers. No one wants the answers. So, and I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm saying I have a piece of the answer. And hopefully that piece of the answer will open something else up, someone smarter than me, which is a lot of people. So
let's take our break right here, Jason. And everybody, the book is getting ready to get published. All right, so just relax, and when we get to that point, I will certainly let everybody know. And it's going to be about a week. It's not that big of a deal. Just got a couple of little things that need to get tightened up and finished. And when we do, you'll know what to do. All right. So the book is called Astral Genesis. More with Jason in a minute. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Please visit all of our sponsors. We're taking a quick break here. All of the links are below. We'll be right back. Check out Billy Carson's Forbidden Knowledge. ForbiddenKnowledge.com or ForbiddenKnowledge.tv, where you can get access to over 6,000 videos, movies, TV series, exclusive documentaries like the Black Knight Satellite. You can do it all for just $7.77 per month or $77 per year after the 3-day trial, which is also totally free to check out. It's all simple to do. Billy Carson is the best. It's simple. ForbiddenKnowledge.com or ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's the number 4BK. I will be hosting and emceeing the Conscious Life Expo this February 10th through the 13th at the LAX Hilton right here in Los Angeles, California. 200 speakers, including Linda Moulton Howe, Bashar, Deborah King, George Norrie, Daniel Sheehan, Scott Walter Johnstone, and David Wolf. Over 200 vendors, special events. This is the biggest event of its kind on planet Earth. You've got to come and hang out with all of us. Tickets and info at ConsciousLifeExpo.com. The links are below. On Saturday, April 1st, that's right, April Fool's Day, 2023, I will be hosting the Parapod Festival at the Hyatt Regency right here in Valencia, California. It's a live one-day podcast awards. It's a film festival. It's a full-on media event. We're going to have sky watching. There's going to be a Lifetime Achievement Award presented to Linda Moulton Howe. Right now, you can submit your podcast, your film, your TV series, any of your paranormal media for consideration. You can do all of that on the links below. For info and tickets, go to parapodfilmfest.com. That's parapodfilmfest.com. April 7th through the 14th, 2023, I'll be hosting and presenting on the Hidden Secrets Seminar at Sea Cruise. From Los Angeles to the Mexican Riviera on the Navigator of the Seas. That's right, up top, a giant water slide. You've got to check out the Navigator of the Seas. It's amazing. We've got Scott Walter, Adam Apollo, Nick Pope, Brad Olson, Vivian Chauvet, Jason Shirka, Robert Grant, Ruben Langdon, and another 12 amazing speakers and presenters. It's all simple to do. Just visit divinetravels.com/Hidden Secrets 2023. You know you want to go on a cruise with me. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right, welcome back. Jason Quitt is our guest. And I was lighting incense. I need to burn incense before we, get struck by lightning for heresy, in the studio tonight. It is a possibility. Jason, the book, I'm going to pop the cover up for everybody. There it is. It's called Astral Genesis. And the book could be published in about a week. Again, no secrets, nothing specific tonight because it's got to get published and become part of the historical record. And now we're talking about secrets tonight, but specifically what Jason stumbled upon is crazy. And one of Jason called me and said, okay, now we got to talk about Gobekli Tepe. And I was like, oh, come on, man. Seriously? And specifically, Pillar 43, which has been analyzed and looked at so many times by myself and others. A lot of time has been spent on Pillar 43. I think we can safely discuss what is on 43 because everybody has seen it. But what drew you to Pillar 43?
At first, it was the astrological images of the animals, because it's well established. People have been writing about this for years that the animals, such as the birds, the snakes, the scorpion that are found on this pillar represented known constellations, such as Cygnus, Draco. They had the pole stars. Scorpius. So the constellations were on the pillar, and that's what drew me to it, because we're always talking about astrology. Like, was it the Babylonians? They credit the Babylonians as like, okay, they really knew the constellations, they really knew astrology, and that's where it really came from. But we also find it in ancient Egypt. It's in the pyramid texts of Unas, 2600 BC. Talks about the constellations in there. So, how far back does knowledge of the constellations go? And we go back to Gobekli Tepe, Pillar 43. You have the fundamental symbols of the zodiac located on these pillars. So that's what originally drew me to it. And then you see the baskets on it, and then everybody's like, oh my God, baskets, things like that. And I started to kind of analyze it from the perspective of the keys that I figured out. And when I applied the keys to the pillar, suddenly another story came out of it. And it explained a lot of symbols on it. It also explained the duck or the goose at the bottom, which nobody can understand what that is, because all the constellations fit perfectly. Like, they know what these animals are, and then suddenly there's a huge duck on the bottom. It's like, what is this duck or goose doing here? It doesn't fit with anything else. But it does fit with ancient mythology in a very specific way. So that's also a clue. But what's, in my mind, insane about this is we're looking at something that's almost 12,000 years old, but we're looking at something that is clearly evolved already. Okay, so the knowledge of the stars and the zodiac is already evolved in that form almost 12,000 years ago. So just that in itself, and that's known, that's not really a secret. It's just not well known. But everybody that says, okay, it's ancient Babylon that basically put together the zodiac, and then the Egyptians stole it because they took the symbols and the Dendara Zodiac on the ceiling. No, it goes way further back, almost 12,000 years back into history. These zoomorphic forms of the constellations, fully formed. So then we have to ask ourselves, well, where did it originate, and did it originate in Gobekli Tepe, or is there even a further prehistory of this knowledge that predates all of this? So that's what really drew me to that pillar, because it's an easy target.
Jessica Rodriguez, and I've seen this now a few times tonight. Are you going to be signing books if bought directly from your website?
Yes, I will. I do that. So yes, you just have to wait, because if you order from Amazon, it probably gets there in like a couple days. If you order it from me, it's probably going to be a couple weeks, because the back and forth type of thing. So that's the only downside to getting a signature. You'd have to wait probably a week or two.
Now, let's go back to Dendara for a second, and the representation of the zodiac. What is in the ceiling of Dendara now is a cast, right? I think, was it the British or the French came over and chopped it out of the ceiling, and it's now sitting in the Louvre or the British Museum, the original zodiac. But how do you suppose, whether it was Mesopotamia or Egypt and Dendara, or even Gobekli Tepe, that the representation of the constellations in the zodiac were something that were repeated over cultures, and in this case, you've got a 7,000 year gap, right, in between there. But yet, when I go out and look at the night sky and look at the constellations, man, for the life of me, I don't see right. I don't see scales. I don't see a bear. Yeah, I don't see a duck. I don't see anything. But those cultures were seeing the exact same thing, and they represented it in their own symbology. How do you think that's possible?
I think that there is variations. I mean, there are variations from the characters of the zodiac from, let's say, Babylon and in Egypt, but they all basically followed the same type of direction. And it is a little different when you go back to, let's say, Gobekli Tepe, because, or even if you go to other places in the world, for example, if you come over to North America, it has to do with the life that's available to that area. So if you look at, let's say, like totem poles here, you're not going to have like lions and tigers, because there's no lions and tigers here. You're going to have the animals that are in the location. So with Egypt, Babylon, Gobekli Tepe, it was pretty much a similar, it was close enough, I would say, for knowledge to be passed. But again, it's the system. It's the division of the stars in a very specific system, linking animals to them, and then giving mythologies and stories to those animals and to those stars. And then it's that story and mythology with the animals in the night sky that gets transferred from culture to culture. And then the culture will take those, or take that information and basically do a variation of it to fit more their culture. So you have this original knowledge that exists, and you can see it being filtered through other cultures, but it still remains the same information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting. Okay, now let's jump ahead a little bit. Again, just so everybody can have sharing the fun. So I get another text from Jason, and he goes, okay, so now what if I don't want to get into specifics here, Jason. Maybe we can. I don't know how much it's going to reveal. Okay, you know what? I'm going to say just one. Okay, I'm going to bring up the Serpent Mound. So I get this text, and again, I'm going to speak in generalities. Jason goes, okay, man, what if I could connect, and I'm just going to pull something out of the air. What if I can connect what if I can connect Gobekli Tepe to the Serpent Mound? Call me. And I'm like, oh, come on. So, but you did. Now, we're not going to say how or what. We're going to wait for that. But we're starting to stretch belief systems here. There is no way that there can be a connection between any of this, right? A wall in the wall in the tomb of the Valley of the Kings, or Gobekli Tepe, and the Serpent Mound, or some other ancient site, indigenous site in North America. That's impossible.
Well, someone had passed on some knowledge, and it was used in two different places. The question is, who gave them that knowledge? I think is the real question to this.
So the connection, I think, is again, especially in science and archaeology, you need stuff repeatable, and you need stuff to back it up. Well, it is done in the book. So when you are going to have some very serious academics come at you and just call this pseudoscience, pseudo archaeology, that this is impossible. But the data says, and the information says, not only is it possible, but this actually did happen. But you're going to have to prepare yourself for those discussions.
What's the first thing I texted you is I'm going to be canceled because of this.
Yeah, I know, right? You did text me that,
and
Yeah.
I think I am going to have a very rough time, and I think it just comes with the territory. I don't want it to have a rough time with this. I think this is pretty cool, and that's why I was really into this. But remember, it's like there is fundamental constructs of history and fundamental constructs of teaching this history. And you come along and you say, but how do you explain this then? And it just will it's like, I'll call it the Graham Hancock effect. Like, he's having a rough time right now because of his show. And he didn't really, that stuff has been out in the mainstream for a long time, but thanks to him and many others. But so to a person just watching that show, it could be quite controversial. But in this book, it's kind of a left field answer. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
It's not like, here you go. Here's the answer. It comes from an understanding of a very specific set of rules. Okay. And I won't say much, but this set of rules has to be passed. It can't be made up, and it can't be just done. So something had to, or somebody, or some culture, or some ancestors had to pass this knowledge on. And that's undeniable. Or I think it's undeniable. And once you understand it, then it will become undeniable to you that there is a history that is not being told. And it's basically, these ancients didn't know anything, and they believed in the sun and all this other nonsense. We're the children. We don't know these things. And going deep into these symbols, going deep into their astrotheology, it's like they're at the level of genius. Like it took me so long to relearn, because I had to take everything that I knew about these subjects and throw them out the windows, because I couldn't move forward unless I had to learn directly from them. And I had to learn directly from their symbols, what they're showing. I couldn't go online. And I tried that. I went online and I wanted to see what academics are talking about some of these artifacts. And I just realized they're just guessing. They just want to tell you this because it fits what they want to tell you. But what I'm seeing is completely opposite to what's being preached in the mainstream. So absolutely, I'm going to have a very rough time going forward with this. And I understand that.
Yeah. Graham has got a few different issues that he's working on. One, he's too defensive, right? And he wants to respond to the critics, and he wants to, and I get that. We all want to defend our position and stuff. But he probably should have avoided responding to any of that, because they were going to do it anyway. And responding to them is not going to change their minds, number one, and it doesn't improve your position at all. We all know you're going to stand behind your work. So you probably should just let that go. It's just creating stress in your life. That's the first mistake that he has made. So don't make that mistake, Jason. Just people say what they're going to say. But the other part, Graham kind of invited this onto himself too, because in the series, which is different from your book, in the series, he just says stuff. And you can't just say stuff without backing it up with something. Like when he went to get on Padang, right? And he's on the top, and then he shows they show a graphic cutaway. He says, "Oh, there's secret subterranean chambers here. There's 3 of them, and these square rooms, and they're connected by a tunnel." Well, you know what? You can't just say that, because that's just, you're just blah, blah. No matter what kind of ground penetrating, you need to dig a hole, right? You need to go down and then present that. And show a room. You just can't show a graphic on the top of the screen and not expect criticism, right? Or whatever, the Bemini Road, or these things. You can't just say things, and it's great, and you're right, it's been out there for a while, without backing it up. Your book is different. Your book is presenting this idea and this theory, but showing why, with the data and with the facts. And that's different. So you're going to have a different kind of discussion with the critics out there. It's going to be about changing history. And so that's what the discussion is about. You have the data to back it up. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that's why Graham created these issues.
Well, that's why I've been working so hard and taking my time with the art, because it's out there. So if anybody wants to duplicate the information, I've given them the steps that they can go on their computer and recreate everything that I've just shown them. Mm-hmm. So
a very important part about this. Yes. So I just revealed the Serpent Mound, which is you have a chapter specific. It's crazy too. Oh man, out of there's so much amazing stuff in this book. To connect to indigenous cultures here in North America like that in such a direct form. I mean, like indisputable stuff. That's crazy to me. But then there's the tree of life. And so are we getting too new agey here, right? Or the tree of life and how it is connected, because now we're starting to get all over the place. But is the tree of life one of the keys here?
I would say the tree of life is one of the main motifs of a certain astrological mythology, is what I can say. And, the tree of life has been taken to mean many different things, especially in metaphysical communities, New Age communities. But when you go back to, let's say, the original trees of life, there are many. There's a tree of life in Samaria. There's a tree of life in ancient Egypt. And it goes even further. The ones that we see with the ones that we're most familiar with are the ones from Akkadian and Babylonian, which is where you have the beautiful temple walls with, you know, the guys with the handbags and the pine cones, and they're taking care of the tree of life. Like, those were main motifs of the ancient Acadians. And this is where we kind of grown from this whole tree of life. But like I said, learn the story of the tree of life from Egypt. Okay, learn the story of the tree of life from the Sumerians. And then you can start to see that there's a whole mythology around what the tree of life is. And then you can see it being taken, the same mythologies almost exactly end up in the Bible as the tree in the center of the garden with the serpent and the fruit. The same stories in Egypt, you know. So, but that's the thing, is we think it's a story, we think it's a mythology, we think it's the Bible. But if you go back to those original stories, it was astrological themes that spoke about very specific moments of time. So when you understand those things, you can start putting those pieces together of what you're actually seeing in these motifs and what they're trying to express to you, using the tree of life as a symbol to tell the story. See, I didn't give anything away.
Yeah. I mean, and so I'm looking at the time that we have left. Just check this out, everyone. I've just painted a very broad picture, you know, with Gobekli Tepe, ancient Egypt, Jason, but in this show, Mesopotamia, coming over to North America, but now we have like the pre-Inca culture, and jumping into that, we have the indigenous parts of North America. But if we pull this down into pre-Inca, which would suggest Mayans and the Olmecs, Central and South America, this is starting to get really, really, really interesting, where the connections have never been proven, but now we're going there. So let's talk about that for a second, the pre-Inca cultures.
Well, I would just say that the pre-Inca cultures, especially around Bolivia and Peru, the artifacts are just stunningly beautiful. Like, they are just intricately designed. The Tumi knives, the ceremonial knives, they're just so they're beautiful. Let's just say that. I lost that word. But they carry motifs, you know. So everybody knows Inca and Maya and all these things, and you know, it's all children of the sun culture, sun worship. So their gods are solar deities. Their artifacts are in gold, and I will just say that well, I think I can give this away because people do know this, is that the staff gods from ancient Peru. Okay, so you have the staff gods, which are some of the oldest deities found in Peru, going back almost 5,000 years. Okay, this is really ancient stuff found in burial sites. They found artifacts of gods holding two staffs in their hands or two serpents in their hands. Okay, that symbol being 5,000 years old, being found in Peru. And then you see it throughout the pre-Columbian cultures, throughout Peru and Bolivia. And you see it at the gate of the gods, or the gate of the sun. You have the solar deity on the top of that doorway holding the two staffs thousands of years later. But that motif, that image, that symbol of the deity holding two snakes in either hands is found in Egypt, in Samaria. It's found in many places. So how are these cultures that are literally opposite ends of the planet have solar deities standing in a position where they're both holding snakes in their hands, exactly the same way. So we can look at this and we can say, okay, there's a connection because it's so obvious that there's a connection, how it's the same. But we go into a lot more detail.
Yeah, well, see, that's the way I would look at it. Yeah, man, he's holding. Well, so what do you see here? Well, they're both holding snakes. Yeah, anybody can see that, right? It's what goes beyond that, and then the Gate of the Sun, Pumapunku, right? Tiwanaku,
yeah.
The Gate of the Sun. Here's what I've always found really interesting about that is that the alignments today mean nothing. The solar alignments that make sense are 15,000 years old, right? That you'd have to tip everything and, and take another view of the sky. And now we're talking about a potential temple of the sun that was constructed at least 15,000 years ago. Now you're deep into the Ice Age and way before anything, but that may be exactly what is going on here because of what you've unraveled.
Well, the issue with that site is that it's claimed that it was moved and they don't know where the original location of it was. So basically, wherever they found it was on the ground broken. They just lifted it up in that exact space, and that's where it is. So there is no real alignment. We don't really know the original site for it. But they also give it a date only about like around, I think it was around 500 or 900.
Check this out, Jason. You ready?
Yeah.
You ready? I'm going to show you how smart this audience is. You ready?
Yeah.
Read that.
Cool.
I'm just going to let that go. Man, you guys are going to love the book. I'm just telling you, I can read the future on this one. My crystal ball's not off. This is going to cause some major ripples in the water.
And it's what I'm showing is not, in a sense, spiritual community stuff. I mean, this is a more history. It's not like I'm not getting into any new age concepts in this book. It's just right into the
data. It's just
right
data.
into the data. Yeah.
It's just data. It's just data. Folks, you'll see. You'll understand. I wish. I'm going to say one thing specific. Jason is doing, the book is not black and white. There's one additional color, right?
No, it's full color. The inside's full color.
Hold on, can I finish, Jason? Is it okay?
You scared me. Sorry.
It's still my show. I know you think it's the Jason Quitt hour. But you need to have, because the information can be very complex, but Jason has got overlays in color, dash lines and things that you need to see. And I was so happy about seeing that, because people see things better, not in color. Well, yeah, in color, but with correct illustrations. It's easier to digest. You could put it all in writing, right? And then you've got to think through it. But you chose to do it that way. And I think that I'm very excited for people to go and see this and then go to the next one, next illustration, and see it clearly laid out for them in full color is incredible. They are really going to enjoy how it's represented, my man.
Yeah, and they'll have to learn a new language, and I hope I simplified it enough.
You did it for me. Right, you did it for me. Jason walked me through one specific thing. And also you can kind of think about the hand and the eye and that kind of stuff. And when you see it go from culture to culture, whatever it may be, I think it's going to be pretty easy for everybody to digest. It's how you got there that is so technical and complicated. I still don't know how you pulled it off.
I thought I pulled it off when I had the first key, and I was like, I'm done. Like, this is crazy. This is so great. And
it could have been good enough, actually.
And then the more I found, the more I had to expand what I knew about it. So like I said, I had to take the university course myself, and I had to write it because it wasn't out there, So if someone says, "Where's your references?" It's me trying to figure it out in meditation and trying to figure it out, like staring at these symbols and redrawing, taking, let's say, and this is what I did for, let's say, the Eye of Horus, right? Everybody knows that. Let's say I took 10 or 15 examples of the Eye of Horus, and then I had to meticulously draw each one of them to see the differences. Okay, that's the kind of work that has to go into this to understand what is the meaning of this symbol, and then why is it different in this version than this version. All right, so it's like I had to go through that entire process. So it took a little while, but once those pieces started to click, the same answers were applied to other symbols as well. So it's not like every symbol was a puzzle to crack. It's like you crack one symbol and that answer is in all of them.
When okay, let's just keep going east, right? Okay, so we were just in Tiwanaku, but now we take this thing to. I said we again, Jason. I apologize for that. Jason, you take this to Easter Island next. Is there anything that's left out? I mean,
I had to stop.
Yeah, right. Easter Island. Come on, man. Really?
Yeah, I see. This is what I do. Is I knew that there was, like, I already knew this.
I do it, man. Ken Priest is a troublemaker, but he just hit it right on the head right there.
Yeah. I was looking at the statues of Easter Island, right? And because they're odd, obviously, and I wanted to see if they followed this kind of signature that we're finding everywhere else. And I knew that there was 7 of these statues that looked to east, and they were aligned to the rising sun of the equinox. It's a pretty common thing. So it's the sacred site there during the equinoxes, which is twice a year. These statues are facing the ocean, watching that sunrise, just like the Sphinx. The Sphinx watches the sunrise on the equinox. And then I started to just, Google images, and you type in the statues, and suddenly I started to see all the carvings, because it's not just the statues. The statues have carvings on their backs, beautifully done artwork on the backs of these statues. And I'm looking at them, and I'm like, okay, this is the exact same thing that we've been finding all over the world. How did this get to Easter Island? So I had to stop myself. And there's actually many examples that are not in the book, because I didn't think I would be adding anything more to everything else that I already put in there. I didn't want to keep repeating the same things over and over again. But this thing keeps turning up in the most famous lost civilizations.
I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but here's something that's really cool. And we see it now all the time with different aspects of thinking outside of the box, right? But once you suggest, and you just force people to think just a little bit, they will go and pick up on certain things on their own. And that's what this book is going to do. You are going to have others say, you know what, I've found this over here. I found this here in Japan, and we just found this in China. I was just in India. Check this out. And that's what I think is going to happen, because it's a roadmap and a very elegant explanation of what to look for and how to see these things. And then everybody's going to go on their own, I was going to say Easter egg hunt, as we're talking about Easter Island. But that's what's going to happen, Jason.
That's what I'm hoping. That is what I'm really hoping, because like I said, every place that I've looked, it's not everywhere. Okay. It really is not in everything, but it is in important things. So there are going to be people that take this information, because once you have this information, it's so easy. Like if you have a computer, if you have Illustrator, an Illustrator program, or a graphic, like a CAD program, it's going to be so simple. So all you need is the right picture of it, copy it, and add the keys. And once you add the keys, there's your story. You can tell if it's part of the lineage or not.
How do you feel? Do you feel that? Do you feel a sense of relief that in some aspects you've completed this section of your life, this hero's journey, where you've gone on this, and now the book is done? How do you feel now? Do you feel anxious, or do you think that you've left stuff out?
It's a tough question, because I'm still in that adrenaline mode of I just finished, and I'm putting it out there. I don't know how the public is going to take it. I really don't. But if this is what I think it is, it's new. And no one's ever gone down this road before. So people are going to talk about it.
When you think about Jason, we've known each other for a very long time, right? And all of those late nights that we have spent in the past, the long late dinners and just talking about the world and those amazing conversations that we've had. And we thought that those were pretty complete. I had no idea that we would end up here in 2023. None. I didn't see this one coming. Did you?
No. And like I said, this was completely out of left field. I was writing the Egyptian Postures of Power book, and just in the process of writing it, something hit me, and I couldn't ignore it. I had to start again. And I think it's very important, because I'll just say this, is that we all have a lineage going back somewhere. We're not Canadians and Americans. Like, we go further back in history than that. And our ancestors are still with us. I mean, we are our ancestors. We're an unbroken chain of life. And we've completely ignored, or we don't understand how they speak. So what I really wanted to do with this book is I'm not going to lecture you on anything. Okay. I'm not going to say, this is my opinion. This is what I think. I'm going to say, let the symbols, let the myths from our ancestors talk to you. I don't want to tell you their words. This is what they're saying, and I'm just here helping you to translate it. So I'm really trying to give the voice back to the ancestors. So it's not some academic saying, this is what I believe, and they believe that the sun was the god, and things like that. I want to tell the story from their perspective and their voice, using their symbols.
It's such a challenge to. It's not so much suggesting, Jason, a new idea. It's that staying quiet about it, right? And just keeping it to a conversation sitting around a dinner table. That's the wrong thing to do, right? You've got to follow it, complete it, and then release it to the world. That's the difference here. And I think that is always the real challenge. Too many of us talk. I talk too much. I don't do crap. I just talk and don't get anything done. But we need people like you, to talk, but to turn around and share this information in such a complete and digestible way. And I think that you've achieved it. I really do.
Thank you. And, that's one of the hardest things to do is I've been working on this, like I said, since the summertime, starting with these Egyptian postures. And I did not tell a soul. I called you when I needed the slap in the face. But other than that, no one knew what I was working on because that's also my process is it's like entering the cave. You only have a single point on your mind and you just wait until that answer comes to you. And it takes months for those answers to start flowing in, but that's what you do.
Well, and that's why I wanted this show to be what it was tonight, this conversation, the chance for us, I'm just talking about you and I, to have a conversation at the finish of the book right before it gets published, so that everybody can remember where they were that night with this book that Jason and Jimmy were talking about. Well, the book's going to come, and everybody's going to understand why we had the conversation that we had tonight, and the way that we had it. It'll make perfect sense to everybody, but this conversation had to happen, and it had to be presented to the public in a certain way. And that's what we're, it's just two friends talking about something that's potentially, it's going to be very important. It's like just before you walk out on stage, right? It's like just like that. It's the same anticipation. Yeah, it's here we go.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if I think you're the only person that has seen the full book. And like I said, I'm still asking you. I think I even asked you today. Please tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah. Jason, sometimes you've got to go with your gut. Right? There's the safe road, right? There's the easy. Everybody can go down easy street. That's easy. Right? Changing things is hard. It's hard. And so, yeah, absolutely. I totally get it, man. You can take the easy road. No, we need you to take the hard road. The amount of work, and I've only seen, 30% of the work, or probably less than that. And I've read through the book, of course, but when people see the amount of time that has been put into this and how and what it is, dude, it's profound. I mean, it's just crazy. I just can't imagine. And well, now I know why. Jimmy, man, and you're not gonna hold on for a second. And I was like, oh, geez, man, look at you. But now everybody's going to get it. And they're going to get it. Think about that now. Just think about what I'm saying, because that's what you went through. And I just couldn't believe it that and I had told you, and I'm so glad. My advice can be very superficial, But stay on it, Jason. Don't stop. This right here is too important. You've got to continue. I had said the other day, I forget who the guest was, but the point was something that I repeated with you. All right. It was a conversation you and I had, and I said it to another guest on the show, which is, it's very simple. When you're dealing with this kind of material and you choose, you've got all of these things in front of you and you choose to go over to here, this is 10,000 things you've got to look at. And it's the same thing with every, right? So having that kind of discipline, if you're going to go over here, it's 10,000. Right here, it's so much work, but you actually got that done. You were able to go over to here and unravel everything that needs to be done. You went over to here and unraveled everything from top to bottom, and that's a crazy amount of commitment, man. I mean, just, and I watched it happen. It's just nuts to me.
Thank you. And like I said, there is no pre-orders. I don't know why I don't do those things. For me, it has to be solid and real for anybody to send any money for anything. And I want the book to be done properly. So it should be a week. And like I even said to Jimmy, I said, are you sure you even want to do this show tonight? Because it's just going to like tease people.
Yeah, check this out. If we order from you, Jason, can we get a signed copy? There's 687 people right now in the chat room.
Yes. My friendly person at the mail room will really not like me because I'll take their entire day of trying to ship things.
So what's next now? We've got about a week to the curtain call, right? To publishing. There's going to be a lot of interviews and television and things that are going to be coming up for you. But what's next? Are you going to go back? Are you going to do Postures Part 2?
Yeah, I'm almost like I was pretty much finished writing half the Postures book before this happened. So I'm halfway through the Postures book. I'm gonna have to go back, and now I'll have a very new perspective as well, going back to writing that book. But I think I need to take some time off because I really think that sitting in a chair 8 hours a day for 6 months is taking its toll. So I need to get back to some type of life after this. But like I say, books take on a life of their own. And that's what I'm hoping. So, people will take the book, they're going to dissect it. They're going to tell me how right I am, or they're going to tell me how wrong I am. There's going to be people ripping apart the book. There's going to be people that are praising it. So I'm just going to step back and let the book take that and not me. And, I'll speak about it because there's so much more information that is not in the book, but it's more of a conversation of what is in the book. So, and again, like you were saying before, I really hope that once people have these keys, once people understand the language, that they're going to look and they're going to find things from their culture, from their history, from different parts of the world that will connect them to this heritage that is prehistoric, that we do not have any records of. And I really think that having that kind of lineage and knowing that my culture had this, your culture had this, we both had the same thing like thousands of years ago. Did we all come from a common heritage? Were we all connected at one point? Did we all contain this knowledge? Is this something that links us together? I think that's an important philosophical conversation about this work.
I think what needs to happen next is you and Monica just get on a plane and come out and stay with me for a week or two.
Sounds perfect.
It just, your crazy eyes are gone. See, that's the good part. The crazy eyes, the crazy eyes, man. Oh, listen, everybody. I'm not this isn't like funny joke stuff here on the show right now. That's exactly what I said to Jason every time I call. Dude, you got the crazy eyes, man. You got the crazy eyes.
You know, it's a joke with authors that it's like, I'm going to write my descent into madness novel. This was my descent into madness novel. Because I went there. I'm up all night with the eyes just looking at the ceiling. Like, you see the numbers on the ceiling and the geometry, and you're trying to put things together. So yeah, when you saw me, maybe I should have got some sleep before. Maybe I should have gotten out of my pajamas or brushed my hair, shaved.
Man, I have to say, sometimes it doesn't matter if it's a painting or if it's a song or a book or whatever. When you are a creator of some type of art, whatever it is, you have to get to the good stuff. You got to go into the zone. That's it. That's the only way to get there, where you are unaware of everything. You are just where you need to be. And that's where the magic happens. Because when I was going through the data with you, my question was, how did you get to this point? How did you get here? It's because you go to the mountaintop, man. That's it. And it's the only way that is that descent into madness that you're talking about. And every artist, that goes into that special place describes it in the very same way, Jason.
So I'm coming back. I'm coming back. No more crazy eyes.
Oh, man. I rather enjoyed it, though. I was like, man, if I just give Jason a little nudge, he ain't ever coming back, man. He's right there.
It's like the conspiracy guy with the board of photographs and like marking things around.
Man,
but look,
just that little thing. I could have said just a little push from the back. You would have never come back. That's it. You would have.
It was a deep abyss. Let me tell you.
Well, just thank you. The book is incredible. I'm going to pop up the cover again for everybody. There it is. I'll just let everybody know. I'll get it out there on social media. Jason and I will make the announcement together the second that it is available. Everybody will know at the same time. It was so funny. Literally, Jason said, I'm a mouse click away. But yeah. So it's 7 days. 7 days, everybody. Everything will be available. And the second that Jason says go, I'll let everybody know. Okay. Jason, give my best to Monica, man. You guys, are you going to hit 50 below this weekend?
I don't know. I haven't checked, but I know it's very cold, and I'm lucky I have internet because there's a very bad snowstorm out right now. It's just white outside. So
it's supposed to hit 50 below zero wind chill in Maine. That's I mean, it's just like Maine, Connecticut, New York State, Northern New Jersey, Pennsylvania. That's it. Minus 50. That's crazy. And we're in February, man. That stuff is supposed to be happening.
Yeah. The coldest I've ever been in, I think, was minus 40, and my car wouldn't start.
Yeah, and you're in Toronto, so it's got to be the same for you, right? Are they predicting that minus 50 wind chill?
I'm so focused on my book, I don't even know what's going on outside. Right now, it's only minus 13 where I am, but it feels like minus 22.
Oh man!
And it's snowing all day and night.
I'm going to quit complaining. Give my best to Monica. And like I said, vacation's on me. Just come on out and I'll take care of you guys. And we need to see each other. You've been up there in Canada for too long now. So you need to just break out. You can travel, right? There's no more issues, right?
I believe they're still coming in from international from the States, but I think that is over May 11th.
What?
Yes.
No, I'm talking about bringing you guys down here like next month. No?
I talked to Biden.
Oh, man. Have a great night, man. Give my best to Monica, Jason. Thank you.
I will. You too. Thank you.
And again, congratulations. The book is incredible, and I just can't wait. We got to wait 7 more days.
Thank you. And sorry for the tease, everybody, but we had to.
Not a tease, man. This conversation had to happen. Awesome. Thank you so much. Go hang out with Monica. The book is done. Go hang out with Monica. Leave the studio.
All right.
Turn off the computer. Walk out the door. See you, my friend. I'll give you a call tomorrow. Jason Quitt, everybody. The book. I'm going to pop it back up here. There it is. Astral Genesis. 7 days it will be released. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Now, tomorrow we're going to do a very special Fade to Black. Serena DC is with us tomorrow night, live from the bunker. She's here from Australia. Her new film is out. She's got a second film coming out. I'm in that one. A second film coming out, and there's a special event going on Saturday. It's a worldwide CE5. So tomorrow night we're going to talk about the CE5 experience, all live from the bunker. She is going to be with me live here in the studio. So get ready for that. That is tomorrow night. Fade to Black on a Friday night. That hasn't happened since never. All right. So put that on the books. I'll see everybody tomorrow night right here. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are, Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and this broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2023 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or reused anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, Serena DC, right here in the bunker. Until then, I want everybody to be safe. Gobekli Tepe.